Hi, I'm Shawn Murphy. I am the CEO of Work IQ, formerly Switch and Shift, and also the author of The Optimistic Workplace. So I am here today with a fellow author and a fellow CEO, Glenn Elliott. Hi, Glenn.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm really good, thank you, Shawn.
Yeah, you've come out of the writer's hole and
I have.
now sharing the word about the new book that you've co-authored.
Yeah, we are out of the writer's hole and now trying to explain it to people and see if we can share everything that we found and learned in the project.
All right. So we're going to kind of go into this and help people understand a little bit more about what's in the book. But the thing that struck me the first time I saw the title was the word rebel.
Yeah.
And when we think of leadership and business, rebel is not a welcome word because it's like you're bucking the system, and that's not a traditional mindset. So why the word rebel?
Well, it's interesting. We thought quite a lot about whether we'd use the word rebel or not in the title, including surveying our own staff to ask them what they thought, and it really polarized opinion.
Yeah.
About half of our workforce thought, yes, that's great, we need to put the word rebel in, and the other half thought, oh, it might frighten some of our clients and contacts in HR and in business who are frightened of being a rebel. But ultimately, it had to be the Rebel Playbook, because when we looked at all the companies we've worked with, we've known, and we've interviewed for the book, the only ones that have had success, true success in employee engagement and engaging their staff and building a great culture are the ones who have rebelled. Because essentially, the old way of working, very rigid, very structured, not really treating people the right way, it produces disengagement. Yeah. So disengagement is a result of how you treat people. And if you want to create engagement, you need to stop doing that. So you have to rebel. So that's why it became the Rebel Playbook, because that's what we saw.
So it's really sounds like, so Build It, the Rebel Playbook for world-class employee engagement, is a practical book, it sounds like. It's going to help me understand if I'm a manager and I'm like, my employees are, we don't have a good situation going with our employees. Yeah. This is a book that's going to help me figure out what do I need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Over the last 10 years, we've worked with nearly 2,000 companies, helping them in various ways with their culture and their engagement. And in that time, we developed a model, the 10-point engagement bridge, which is the 10 areas of your business that you need to look at to see how you can move the needle on employee engagement. So the book basically walks through the model and everything we've learned in the last 10 years. And in each chapter, when we look at each part of the bridge, we showcase examples. We call them plays because it's a playbook. Examples of great stuff that some of the world's leading rebels have done in their business. So you can pick up the book, you can read the strategy, but then you can go back to work with actionable stuff that you can do. And that was really important to us. We want people to be able to make change. And I think what's interesting is we've talked to people as we've gone on. Some people will be making change at the organizational level, to the company, but some people will be making change just within their team or their department or how they work too. And that, I think that's great. We just need to start where we can.
Right. It doesn't just have to be a top-down effort. No. It needs to be kind of spread throughout the whole organization, right? Yeah, because
we already see that. When you look at a large organization, there'll be pockets of excellence. Because there's just some leaders who just get it. And they kind of do this stuff anyway.
Right.
And I think sometimes it's funny when sometimes at a corporate level, the company says, yeah, we don't really know why that team does so well over there, and it's often because they've got a great leader of that team or that department or that division who is, maybe without knowing the strategy behind it, who's doing all the right things. They're communicating with their team in an open and honest way. They're making room for people to give feedback, and I call it making room for dissent, allowing people to disagree.
Yeah.
They're creating a space where people can speak up. They're thanking people and making sure people are recognized in the right way. They're creating really great jobs where people develop. They're doing all the things anyway, just maybe without the strategy behind it. And all the book does really, and the bridge, is it just takes what we've learned from all the experience of seeing that work and just kind of shares it in a way that people can work on themselves.
Well, let's talk about some of these plays. So the bridge it's kind of the, I don't know if I'm going to mix my metaphors here, it's the foundation on which the book is built. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 10 elements on the bridge, and we walk through each of them in turn in our chapter, absolutely.
So what are some of your favorite plays that you featured in the book?
Oh, so many. We've met some incredible companies, large and small. So we've met, in the book we've got everyone from kind of LinkedIn and McDonald's to really small companies that you've never heard of and haven't got big budgets, but have done some really cool stuff. I think one of my favorites, actually from here in San Francisco, where we are today, is from a small ad agency here, run by a guy called Paul Venables. And he has just an amazing approach to recognition as part of his culture. He makes a really important point that in an ad agency, your people are the product. I mean, what you're selling, is the creativity and execution ability of your people. That's all there is. So it's incredibly important that he nurtures that. So he does something which is a really interesting spin on a service award. When you've completed 5 years service at the agency, you're given $1,000 per year bar tab to spend at local bars and restaurants. And the only condition is you're asked to spend it taking out people who have just joined the agency and have done less than 5 years service. So you can help teach them about the culture, coach them, mentor them in a kind of informal way. That's a really, really great thing that we've seen with him.
Well, what I like about that is, especially if you're the new guy or the new girl, it can be a little daunting to find your way through the organization. So what better way to kind of break down the barriers by having a glass of wine or a beer with someone and learning about the company that you just joined.
Yeah, and that's great. So that's a really great example of, doesn't take a lot of organisation, doesn't have to be a very big budget, but you could put that in place. We've seen some quite strategic things. So just last week we were down at Bamboo HR in Utah. They've been doing a really interesting strategic approach to pay, where they're paying their sales reps all on base salary, so no commission, no bonus. And they've been exploring how that works for them. So really, really brave thing to do, because the established wisdom is you always pay your sales reps as bonus and commission. That's what drives them. And they've been experimenting with that. We've done some great work looking at Buffer, the social media automation company. They are in open and honest communication. They're just off the scale, showing how this could be done. So they publish online everybody's salaries. Absolutely.
So even if you're not a Buffer employee, you could see what the CEO is making.
Yeah, they've got a website, open.buffer.com, where all their internal documents are visible, their kind of engineering reports are visible, their salaries, their shares, everything. It's completely transparent. And what we learned from them is that they're constantly running transparency experiments to see how more transparent they can be. Because we kind of thought, well, that's as far as you can go, surely, but no, they're constantly doing more. So that's really interesting too. Yeah. We've learned such a lot. There's some really inspiring work going on, and the book's just really about sharing that. Because I think one of the things we've learned about working with HR over the last 10, 11 years is they're kind of not. It's just not competitive in that sense. People want to share and help each other and be inspired by each other. So it's a very collaborative kind of community of professionals, and we're kind of trying to play our role in that.
So I think one thing that strikes me about focusing on employee engagement is a couple things. One, for several decades now, it hasn't changed much, and most of the world has disengaged employees, which is a really sad state of affairs, if you ask me. So what made you want to focus on employee engagement? And I think this probably goes beyond just the book, because this is what Reward Gateway does, right?
Yeah.
But why focus on employee engagement? Because some people say it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's interesting. So there's the primary reason for business to focus on employee engagement is that we have proven beyond any doubt that engaged workforces deliver more for the business than disengaged workforces. So if you take Gallup's data alone, and Gallup have 30 million data points going back 2 decades, and when they cross-reference the most engaged companies with stock market performance, they outperform by 2x. Great Places to Work does similar cross-reference, slightly different methodology, comes out at 1.8. Glassdoor do a completely different methodology using employee anonymous reviews. Lo and behold, it comes out at 1.9. So we know that engaged companies outperform their stock market peers by about 2x. and they also have about half the voluntary employee turnover, and that means that they're building better products, they're connecting to their customer better. That's why they're more successful. So we absolutely know that engagement works for the business. I think also though, engagement is really important on a human level, because whilst it's natural for us in business to focus on like, why does the business need to do this? When you look at the cost of disengagement on a personal level, it's extreme. And funny, if in an earlier part of my career, I actually became a disengaged employee. So I had a corporate job, and I was really good at it, and I really enjoyed it, but I got promoted to a place where I was incompetent. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Peter Principle, which is, it basically says, you're doing a good job, you get promoted, you're doing a good job, you get promoted, doing a good job, you get promoted, you're not very good at it now, so you stay there. And
that's the Peter Principle?
It's the Peter Principle,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And it's interesting because it's, what often happens is you end up promoted into a job which is not harder than the job you're doing, it's different. And that actually happened to me. So I was really good at running engineering teams and engineering projects, and I ended up promoted into a job where I had no team, no engineering, and I was an analyst, and I hated it. Yeah, it was the worst job for me. I was completely incompetent at it, and I had no interest in it, and I quickly became disengaged. The personal cost of disengagement is brutal. You end up sitting at your desk thinking like, is that mole getting bigger? Like, I think that look rough, and is that like raised surface to you? Maybe I need to see a doctor.
So you get distracted from doing what's meaningful and important.
I was starting to think, maybe I'm gluten intolerant now, and I can't sleep that well. Maybe it's stress. I mean, there's terrible things happen because. My job was just not for me, I didn't care about the company, I didn't know why I was there, I didn't know what we were doing. And I think it's a real tragedy that so many of us get that's what work is. Yeah. And I think, work is something which is it's intrinsic to being human. I think, doing productive work, achieving something is something which is really important to be a happy person. And I think that everyone deserves that. So that's kind of why engagement. I think, why is it not working? I think it is working for the companies that are doing it, and they're the ones that end up at the top of those great places to work lists with a double top market performance. Why is it not moving globally? I think there's a load of we've figured it out basically. There's many books about employee engagement and many good books about employee engagement. The problem is we're not really doing the right changes. So I meet a lot of companies who say, oh, we've tried everything in employee engagement, Glenn, and nothing works. And I'm like, okay, tell me what you've tried. Well, we've got a survey running every month. Okay. And we've bought some software that tells everyone when it's somebody's birthday so they can go and say happy birthday. And we've got a new text messaging thing to communicate stuff. I'm like, right. I'm like, have you changed, how's your leadership? What's the environment of, are you creating an environment of trust through open communications? What's your management policies and practices like? What's job design like? What's recognition like? And fundamentally, people aren't changing their businesses. They're thinking they can add bits of tech to the edge and it will magically create engagement.
So it's kind of like, to quote Sarah Palin, putting lipstick on a pig, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very good point, yeah. And I think it's interesting. I think, as people say things, they get the language wrong. They say, what do I do to make my employees be engaged? And well, it's actually not about the employees, it's about you, the company. It's the company's actions are making people disengaged. Right. Yeah. Because I actually think people start engaged on their first day at work because they're all excited about the new job, and then we piss them off. Yeah.
Well, I like the make them engaged. Just like we're going to force you to feel good about your work. Yeah. When you can't force anybody to feel anything.
No.
Right?
And you get it in language. What do I do to make my employees love the company? Make the company lovable. That's what you do. You don't change the people, you change the business. And the problem is just so many of our working practices are still entrenched in kind of, from 100 years ago. Yeah. When 100 years ago, the thing that created value was the machine, really. We kind of bought or invented better machinery, and then we had some poor souls who had to run the machinery, often got stuck in it, and it was a machine that created the value.
Yeah. So when you think about somebody picking up the book and they're digging in and they're reading these plays, what do you hope people walk away from reading the book? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to think?
Well, that's a great question. I think I want them to understand what engagement really is. yeah, that it's about people being connected to the mission, the objective of the organisation, and believing in that mission. That it's about them understanding the role they have in that mission being achieved and deeply wanting that mission to succeed. I hope that they look at their company through a new light of the inputs to engagement, which are the parts of the bridge, and think about what they can change, and are inspired and equipped with some really actionable stuff that they can go away and do on Monday. You know, one of the features of the bridge model that we talk about is bias for action, which is actually an Amazon leadership principle that we've borrowed, because I think in engagement there's too much kind of like reading the theory but then not doing anything. And the real thing that we say in the model is, look, don't look for the highest impact, because that might be something that you can't do for until 2 years' time. Look for where you can do something on Monday, because it's very infectious. When you start making small changes and getting little wins, it kind of infectious, yeah. And I think that's what we need.
Well, it sounds like a great antidote to curing the misery that so many people experience in work, where they go to work and it's, I plug in, do the meeting marathon, find time to do some work that hopefully I'm enjoying. But what you're giving leaders is a playbook to be able to say, here's how you can navigate the misery to help people find something that, you know, brings them engagement and a whole host of other positive outcomes for people. So what is the best way for people to get the book? And so share a little bit about that.
So best way to get the book is just to buy it, order it from your favorite bookseller, Amazon or wherever people go these days. But also we ended up with too much content for the book. Like there was just, we wanted to make we're very respectful of people's time, so we had an idea as to how big it needed to be, so it didn't look too threatening. So there's only so many plays we could fit in the book, and we had just so much great stuff. So we've also launched a website, which is rebelplaybook.com, which is live now, and there's loads of additional content there, which is all free. So you can try the book out, you can see what the plays are like. We've got video interviews, we've got written interviews, we've got a whole lot of content there. So rebelplaybook.com, and it's all there.
All right. So be sure to go and I'm sure you have got all kinds of goodies, so people can download the
Loads
goodies.
Of that, yes, loads.
Okay. Be sure to go to rebelplaybook.com. Order tons of copies of this. Definitely. I think as we look at work being a major part of our life, we as leaders have a responsibility to help make that a positive make work a positive experience. And Glenn and your co-author have done a great job in kind of paving the way. So get out there, enjoy it, and pick up a copy of Build It.
Thanks, Shawn.
Thanks.